Well, happy Hoop Year and welcome back to Jersey Jump Shot, the first and only podcast dedicated exclusively to college basketball in the Garden State. Okay, maybe not a happy Hoop Year. At the moment, it's more like the winter of discontent, to borrow a phrase from Charles Dickens. You didn't expect to hear from Charles Dickens when you signed on to this podcast. However, we're going to start the show with good vibes because joining us this week is one of the best college basketball announcers in the business. He's still in his 20s, but John Fanta already has made a name for himself as a play-by-play voice with Fox Sports. In the past 2 weeks alone, he's delivered some epic game-ending calls, including the Princeton-Rutgers Classic at the Prudential Center. Most importantly, the Denville-Morris County resident is an honorary New Jerseyan and a longtime friend of ours. John, welcome to Jersey Jump Shot.
Jerry, Steve, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be on Jersey Jump Shot again, and you sure know how to make an introduction. The most flattering, the best part about that was you saying still in my 20s, at least for another 6 months.
Oh, yeah, we got that under the wire. Okay, good.
It's not. You got that just in the nick of time, so that makes me feel a little bit better about myself here than maybe some of the squads that are entering 2025 in our wonderful Garden State. But the season is a marathon, and you never know what can happen. And that's why I love what you guys love, showing up to the amount of games that we do, because you never know what you're going to see on any given night.
And that's where I want to start, John. I really want to delve into the art of calling college basketball games for television, which you have done so eloquently. The exhilarating final minute of Princeton's 1-point win over Rutgers was a masterclass on Fox Sports 1 that you ended with. Princeton hits the game-winning shot, and then Dylan Harper's counter from three falls short, and you call out, "It's a Princeton Christmas." And I want to start by asking, where did "It's a Princeton Christmas" come from?
It's a God-given gift. It came straight from the clouds. I mean, it really did. It was not something that I had prepared. I rarely prepare things.
Right.
I think that everything comes from your preparation, though. You're ready for the big moment because you have prepared. So I don't script things out. Very rarely have I done that. And even then, it hasn't come out the same way that something like that can come out. The authentic call there in that moment, because you don't know how that game's going to end. Harper could have hit the shot, and then it's a Rutgers Christmas, or Christmas came early for Rutgers. So with that game, it was 4 days shy of Christmas, and there was that feeling in the air that this was just a magical game. And I thought to myself, the joy and jubilation of the Princeton kids at that moment was like Christmas morning, of how happy they were to win that game after they turned the ball over and Ace Bailey hits an incredible shot. I mean, don't forget about that ridiculous shot that he hit off the turnover.
Right.
So it's something that when you get ready for a game, you paint storylines in your head of what the game's going to come down to, and how the game could go, the different scenarios within the game. And for me, whenever I make a big call, I tell myself 8 words or less. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, you're watching at home. The people that are watching our telecast in that moment are watching at home. There is nothing that I can say that is better than the faces and the noise in the building can tell how the game went. So my job in that moment is to give you what happened in a succinct way, an emotional way. And that's also something that we could talk about, is how you manage your emotions to that point in the game is a real art that I think is the most rewarding / challenging thing that we do, because You don't want to get any more excited beforehand because then you have nowhere to go on a broadcast. You want to, that's the climax right there. But my goal is get out of the way so that then people can hear the sounds. They can hear the shock of the crowd, which that crowd, the majority of it was shocked when Princeton did that, and see the kids, giving us a March-like excitement. And if you have and most of the people, I mean, almost every person I've worked with for Fox Sports or whoever I'm working for, I'm very fortunate to work with outstanding analysts. On this day, I'm working with Jim Spinarco, who I grew up watching with Ian Eagle and Vern Lundquist. So sure. I'll make clear, it is a dream to work with Jim.
You guys are really good together. Like, I replayed the ending of that over and over again, John, and it was like when you were breathing, he was speaking, and then the synergy between the two of you guys was just perfect in that hectic moment.
And he knows his role. He knew their layout. And then he jumps in with his thoughts on that. And that's why he's the consummate professional. Also a Jersey guy, a Jersey City native.
Hudson County's own.
What do you think you would have said, John, had Dylan Harper's shot gone down?
Wow. It's a Harper Christmas. Another Harper moment.
Yes.
To save Christmas for Rutgers, because he would have been the savior in that mode. I mean, in that moment, Rutgers really needed that. Obviously, they didn't get it, but that would have been the other way around. That was a great college basketball game. Phenomenal.
And I want to say, it did, like your call there. It's a Princeton Christmas. It did feel authentic. Like, that totally felt like it just came to you. I thought to myself, when I heard it later, I wasn't sitting courtside, but I thought to myself, there's no way John had prepared that. That came just straight from the gut. So that was perfect.
It did, guys. It did. And I got to tell you, here's one thing that you have to do in this business. And you both, I'm still learning in this business. Like I'll make something clear. I appreciate the praise because, as you just said, I am 29 in this. I tell every producer I work with, look, if you notice something, you have to be open to feedback in what we do.
Right, of course.
You have to be. You're also going to get a million forms of feedback. So as much as there were a bunch of people like yourself, Jerry, and I'm very humbled by it, saying, what a call. What a call. I got a couple of tweets and messages from people saying, you were at a wild octave there the last 15 seconds of the game, and I don't like that. It's like serving dinner to your family. You can't please everybody at the table.
Right.
But you have to be who you are.
Yeah.
You can't, coaches and I talk about this all the time. A coach can't try to be somebody he isn't.
Right.
A broadcaster, Jerry, if somebody, you have to write in your voice. That's your only, that's what makes you who you are. So for me in that moment, it was like, I wasn't even thinking twice about it. I'm like, this is unbelievable. The fact that Rutgers got a steal. I'm going up to this octave and oh my gosh, nothing's changing and it's all chaos for 20 seconds and we better stay here and it better not crack, because I don't want to have one of those moments that goes viral. So we're going to make it to the finish line.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing, John. I want to fast forward to New Year's Day, and you're calling Seton Hall women beating Villanova at the buzzer as Spring Lake's own Faith Massonis. She's quadruple teamed under the basket. She pivots and throws the ball over her head backwards into the hoop as time expires. And your line is, the Seton Hall Pirates keep the faith. Now, I want to ask you about two parts of this call. First of all, what's going through your mind as Faith is pivoting, and you're letting the moment breathe with simply a Faith Massonis, and you sort of stop and just let it unfold as she's trying to figure out how to get the shot off. How do you command restraint in that spot?
Well, I thought she wasn't going to get the shot off.
For starters, right?
So sitting in that chair, I'm kind of watching her there, and I'm like, I just had a moment a few weeks before that, not even with Dylan Adewusu, unfortunately, not being able to come through against Georgetown.
Right.
So it was either, she's underneath the basket, 1 second, a half second, and then that could have worked out too. But it was kind of unclear what she was doing down there. And then you're waiting, and she flips the ball over her head, and it goes in, which was just unbelievable.
Wild.
In a variety of ways. So what was I thinking? I was thinking I'm not going to be able to call a game-winning shot here because she's not going to be able to get it off. And in that moment, you have to be careful with what you do because you can't bury a player or anything too badly.
Right.
But had she not gotten it off, it would have been a very different story. Villanova hangs on. The Wildcats survive.
Right.
But that was what I was thinking with her underneath the basket there.
And then the Seton Hall Pirates keep the faith.
Yeah.
Well, how close? So it was great. But how close did you come to channeling George Michael's? You got to have faith. Like, what's the thought process there? There's different places you can go with this faith sort of pun there, right?
So I am a massive Billy Joel fan.
Okay, me too.
So keeping the faith is where I went with my brain. That song.
Uh-huh. There you go.
Song. And it's Joel's got so many well-known songs. You're right. I could have gone the George Michael route there because I do like that song as well. But we had a broadcast. We had a graphic earlier in the show that had keeping the faith. So my brain stuck with that phrase. And Tony Bozzella, I'm actually going to go down a different avenue here with you guys, very real avenue, because coaches are people.
Sure.
We are people. And Tony and I did not have a good 2024. He lost his mother. I lost my father last January.
Right.
And so we've bonded over that quite a bit. And, we said after the game, actually, I went back and saw him. And, we said, well, for how rough 2024 was on us respectively, what a start to 2025.
Right.
Not a bad start there to 2025. And I started that day by flying from Omaha. I did St. John's and Creighton on New Year's Eve, which was an amazing game that went right down to the buzzer as well.
Right.
I got on the plane. I was tired. I was very tired because now I got to get to Philadelphia and do this game. I was worn out, guys. Not from the night before, trust me, but I was just worn out. There wasn't a whole lot going on in Omaha on New Year's Eve. But I got on the plane. I was not fully with it when I sat down. I sat down in first class by accident, total accident. I was a seat away from economy.
Okay.
The flight attendant didn't give me any flack or anything. She didn't notice. This is the lesson of the day. Just act like you know what you're doing. So she comes up to me. She says, "Would you like something to drink?" I thought to myself, I'm not supposed to be getting asked that. I'll take a whatever, I'll take a coffee. And that's how my 2025 started with, hey, I got a free first class and nobody knew it. And then calling a game winner that night. And so keeping the faith was then also some homage to, hey, with however your 2024 went, keep the faith in 25.
Awesome.
That's great. Hey, John, I'm just curious how assigning games to broadcasters work. Do you have a lot of input in that, or your partners? How does all that work?
We have no input in it. No, you do a little bit. You do a little bit. You cannot get worked up about it. There are so many broadcasters, and I'm on a roster, guys, with Gus Johnson, Tim Brando, Jason Benetti, Dave Sims. These are guys that have been doing games for years and for a long time and have put in the time to get to where they are. And obviously, I've been around a little bit, but Steve, we get our schedule, our November schedule, we get October 5th, October 10th. That's for one network group. There's another network group. We don't see who we're working with until about 2-3 weeks out. It depends on the network group. I'm still waiting on some February details. I am. And it's January 6th. So it's fluid. It's fluid. I have some of my February schedule. I know a fair chunk of dates, but you're constantly kind of, in the wait and see mode, and you can't think about it because you just have to, you kind of have to just wait and see and check in. Now, before the season starts, I check in with the people who assign me. We have a great conversation. We talk with each other, but I don't say, it's very rare for me to say, I really want this, or I think the guys know I'm in Jersey. I love doing the Jersey games, so
Sure.
that's obviously something that I really enjoy doing, and it's fun. But
John,
in my role, you pick your spots. You pick your spots.
if you could pick one current college basketball coach to work with as an analyst, who would it be?
Wow, now that's a good question.
A lot of good personalities to choose from there.
There's a lot of good personalities to choose from on that one, man. Oh gosh, now my mind is trickling, and I think doing a telecast with Kevin Willard could just be really interesting for a variety of reasons.
You've known him a long time, obviously, so that helps.
There might be wine at the broadcast booth. And two, I don't know where things would go. I mean, he's so prickly on anti-media, but not really, because once he does stuff, he does a good job.
Sure.
That would certainly be, an experience in a variety of ways.
I would pay a subscription fee to hear that.
You would be in on that. Yeah, that would be my
right.
That would be my call on that one.
And you never know what Kevin's going to say. That's the thing.
That's why it's pretty good TV.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth.
Yeah, he's not scripted in the least.
At all.
Hey, John, when you watch a game, and maybe it's even a Cleveland Browns game, do you call the game in your head, or are you watching, or are you just listening to them and how they do it, or how do you watch a game?
I listen to the game. I'll be giving my thoughts on the couch, on how the game's getting played. But I do listen. I am a junkie. I will tell you guys that. And you guys are too. I listen to everything. I watch everything. I like to see how people do things.
Right.
I like to see how different networks do things. It's like in a sense there it's like a sport, we take the best things from other people, not the way they call the game, but just you look at how people do things, what they feature, what they're talking about with the team. And then it's something, I watch these games, I'll remember. There's sometimes things I find out about a team that I didn't know because I watched certain broadcasts. That's why you watch the games. You watch the games to find things out, to find new things out. And that's what I love when I do a game. I want to tell my viewers something they didn't know before, because we get to sit on shoot-arounds. We get to, this is a big belief of mine. If you can make the team shoot-around in our field, you are being afforded that access. We get to see the team the day of the game before anybody else does. You need to be there in our seat. You need to be at that shoot-around. If you've got travel logistics and it's a complicated thing, I understand. But you need to be there because it gives you an access pass. But Steve, I do. I watch all the Browns games, and I do listen into what people are saying. And thank God the Browns are not firing Kevin Stefanski. And had they done so, I think he would have been coaching one of the New York teams. He would have been eaten up right away, because I think he's a really good coach. And I think he got dealt a very bad deck of cards. They tried to cater everything to Deshaun Watson. That's the worst contract as far as I'm concerned in pro sports history.
Boy.
He'll never play it down again in Cleveland. So help me God.
All right, John, we got a lot of stuff to get to here. I'm going to skip around here and real quick, before we get to the Jersey teams, I want to hear your thoughts on one more about the art of broadcasting. What's the single biggest piece of advice to a talented young broadcaster that you would have, someone who aspires to get to where you're at or just make a living doing this?
Say yes. Say yes. Say yes to any opportunity. Talk to people. Get to know them. A lot of the younger kids, I think, struggle to, jump in right? Jump into this business because it's not easy to jump into. Let me tell you what makes it easier, guys out there who are trying to get into it. Get to know people. Don't let your first encounter with them be, can you help me?
Right.
Let your first encounter with them be, hey, it's great to meet you. Could I have your email number? We'll stay in touch.
Right.
So that's how you build this thing, Jerry and Steve. You build it by building connections, by knowing people, because everybody talks. Everybody talks to people in our industry, and you want to ask yourself this: what will people say when you're not in the room about you?
Right.
What will people say about you when you're not in the room? You want to build that connection. You want to build your brand. Building a brand on social media today is very important.
It takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work. But how you manage that? Are you just constantly hopping on Twitter and giving the hot take? That can go one way. If you have a big take sometime, I've done it. Certainly have. But you want to be positive. Be positive in how you approach everything, because it's going to make you likable.
Right.
And if you're likable and you say yes to one opportunity, you might get a second opportunity. You might get a third opportunity. All opportunities are created differently. I do a wide variety of assignments. Let's face it, the viewership on one game is not going to be the viewership on every game that you do. But if you dedicate the same amount of passion to every assignment that you get, you're going to keep getting hired. And if you're easy to work with, my other message to the younger kids out there, follow your elders. Meaning, it's okay. Like, if you cover a game, and Jerry, Steve, you see this all the time. I love when a student covers a game. I think it's great. Listen to the questions. Look at what the pros are doing. If you want to jump in at the end with a question, go for it. Shoot your shot. You're there. But the way that you ask a good question is by listening to some of the pros do it. That's going to help you know your place. So those are a couple of the things that I would say. But more than anything, be as good of a person off the air as you are on the air. And you're going to gain a likability factor that says, you know what? He should keep getting some sort of role because he or she does their job and does it the right way. And if you're humble in this, stay humble, and you hustle, good things are going to happen for you.
All right, John, we got a lightning round. 3 questions. You've seen all these teams in person. And by the way, the likability thing is a great point, because I always try to remind myself and my students, sports is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. This isn't life and death. This isn't politics, government. So you got to keep that in mind and keep that perspective. And you always do that. And I think that's why your brand has skyrocketed. Okay, so lightning round. 3 Jersey teams that you follow closely, whose games you've called this year. Let's get them one by one. I want to start by asking you about Rutgers. 3-game homestand, huge this week. Why is Rutgers so inconsistent? What has to happen for the Scarlet Knights to perform up to expectations as time is running out for their resume?
Well, why are they inconsistent? Because they don't defend consistently. So they're a team defensively. They've got some liabilities there. They're just not a team that's going to guard you for 40 minutes. Do they put some sequences together? Are they better at home on that end of the floor? Yes, they're going to need that. They're going to need that over the next week, because if you don't guard, Braden Smith, and if you don't guard Tyler Bilodeau of UCLA, and Wisconsin's offense is a wagon as well, right, you're going to be in for a long night. You can't just consistently trade baskets. It puts too much pressure on you. It puts too much expectation on you. You got to be able to get stops. The other thing is the interior. They don't have great center play. In the Big Ten, that's hard. That's really hard. It's hard to win consistently when you're not a terrific defensive team and you don't have consistent interior play. Are the 2 freshmen otherworldly? Absolutely. And I just did a mock draft for Fox Sports. Dylan Harper went 2. Ace Bailey went 3. And for Rutgers, that's going to be – it should not – that moment – Rutgers fans should celebrate and rejoice. That moment for publicity of the university will be a massive night on draft night. It will be cool in there. I would think Rutgers fans travel in for the draft. I think it's going to be great for the university. Like let's separate that. But we're talking about this year's team.
Right.
I do want to give one message to Rutgers fans. I have seen some, I'm going to call them wackadoodles on social media, wackadoodles isn't too mean, calling out Steve Peichel. Are you out of your mind? He has done a great job at Rutgers. He is a terrific coach. He's not going anywhere. If anything, he's not appreciated enough by Rutgers. He's not appreciated enough by the people that are there, and he's not appreciated enough by the fans. There's a rant for you, because I think Steve's really, really dang good, and I think he knows what he's doing, and I think a lot of coaches have taken freshmen, and at times their team has suffered, and they learn their lesson as a result. I think he'll learn his lesson. I don't think this has worked out to the degree they thought it would, and it just goes to show you when you don't have enough from your supporting cast, it doesn't matter who you are.
Where does Seton Hall go from here, John? And what can they do to kind of salvage this season?
Well, the Feast of Elizabeth Ann Seton was this past week, so maybe that will turn things around. Some of that water, some of that
holy water,
sprinkle
that stuff on everybody.
Would be really just a total baptism of the arena to start 2025 is probably a good idea.
Have my miraculous medal on, John. So that's
you better wear that Wednesday as they try to exorcise the blue demons of DePaul who come into the building. You know what? This has been a brutal season for the Pirates. There's no way around that. Winning the NIT was a blessing then. It was a curse in all reality. It set them behind on how they could build out this roster. NIL money has to continue to rise. I actually think revenue sharing is going to be helpful for teams like Seton Hall because it's going to set a dollar amount. And when you set a dollar amount that you've got to spend, your university then has to abide by that, and we don't have to have these complicated discussions anymore. About what it entails. No, the dollar amount set. This is what you have for your roster. Go and do it. I think it's going to be helpful. But also, we're real here. Money factoring in, there were also some swings and misses here on the players that they brought in. So the certain players that they brought in just have not panned out. They don't have the best way I would sum up the Hall is this, Steve. Jerry and I are we're at almost every game. They don't have anybody to throw the ball into. Right. And it's the first time in a long time that you could say that. It's been a long time. They also don't have anyone to throw the ball into that person. That's not a good combination there. That's two very bad combos.
No doubt.
You don't have anyone to catch the ball, but you don't even have anyone that can make it there if they would like to. They can't throw the ball inside. This is a Big East Conference team. I mean, that's the Big East. Your ability to mash or to make something happen or to get on the glass. They're not going to call stuff. They're going to let you play physical. They're not a perimeter shooting team. They do play hard. I mean, they've had a couple of efforts where, like the game at Xavier, obviously that didn't go well. The Hall's had many of those types of performances. Wednesday, they will play hard. They'll probably play harder than DePaul. Like they will at home. But I have never seen a team that is so, at this stage of the year, unidentified offensively.
Right. And that'll be the challenge. Like, who can they identify, who can help them going forward, like in Shaheen Holloway's regime, and can they keep those guys? And that's what this is about.
I will make a prediction.
Okay.
Seton Hall will have one, if not two moments before the end of the season that make you say, how in God's name did this team just win that game?
Yeah. Interesting.
I just know Shah too well. The season might end with 9 or 10 wins, but I'm going to give the foreshadowing here, and God, I hope I'm right. There will be a night, Seton Hall fans, after a home game against a marquee team where you say, you know what? If if there was only one thing or only one win that I had to take this season, that one was a little extra reward.
There's 2 of those coming up on the calendar.
Yeah, you might.
And UConn.
You never know. You never know.
And they're on Saturdays. All right, John, duly noted. Let's wrap this up. And you're the first guest this season to make to last the entirety of our show. Of course, there's no one we'd rather have in the chair with us here. Last question. Let's end on a note of the one team in New Jersey college basketball that's having a good season, demonstrably good season, and that's Princeton. How has Princeton built its culture in defiance of the college basketball landscape? And what is the Tigers' potential come March? Because we do think they will be a factor in March.
They'll absolutely be a factor in March. They've got incredible balance. They play efficiently. They've seen players develop. Dalen Davis is a great example of that. He's gotten better as a player. But Cade Pierce has done that throughout the course of his career. Xavier Lee's done that as well. Look, I think that this team absolutely can win the Ivy League tournament and can win a tournament game, if not multiple tournament games again. They're so well coached. I love the development of Philip Byreal. I think he helps them and has given them some good production. Blake Peters knows his role. They're deep. They share the ball. They don't make mistakes. They make you beat them. Do they have great size? No, but they compensate for that. They space you. They move without the ball at a tremendous level. And I think Mitch Henderson is one of the best coaches in college basketball that people don't talk enough about. If he wanted to, he could have jumped already. He loves Princeton. He loves being at Princeton. It's a great situation if you're a Tigers fan. They are for real. They can win the Ivy League tournament, no question about it. The only weird thing about the Ivy League is that their tournament's up at Brown.
Right.
So I don't love that campus site thing. I would give it to the 1 seed. Just give it to the team that earned it. But needless to say, I love the Tigers. I think that they've got Columbia on MLK Day.
Big game.
Yep. And I do think they're going to show they're the best team in this league. And I think you're right. That team can do serious damage.
No one wants to see them on the opposite side of a bracket in March. All right. Well, Jersey Jump Shot, the only show where you get a quote from Charles Dickens and wisdom from John Fanta. What a way to start 2025. John, I can't thank you enough. It's a pleasure watching you grow as a broadcaster, and your brand is awesome. And so glad you could lend that to us for this show. Super stuff. We'll see you along the way. We'll keep those predictions in mind. And thank you to all of you who tune in and listen, Jersey's hardcore fans. It's been a long winter, but we'll be here and there will be some surprises. So keep listening, keep watching, and we'll see you next time on Jersey Jump Shot.